You're listening to the Full Circle Music Show, the why of the music biz. Welcome back to the Full Circle Music Show. It's Chris Murphy and Seth Mosley sitting here interviewing the best and the brightest of the music biz. And today we've got another good one for you.
We do. We've got a guy on the show named Sean Moffitt. He is quickly becoming a legend in his own right in the town of Nashville. Not only working with artists from Nashville, but he's working with people internationally from all over the world. This guy has Grammys, Dove nominations, and is one of the best and brightest, like Chris said, up-and-comers as a mix engineer. So we talked to Reed Shippen on the second episode. We're going to another mix engineer. The thing I love about this podcast is we get to email a lot of people who are doing kind of a similar thing and hear some differences in their philosophies and hear why he's doing what he's doing. And we can all kind of take the collective knowledge and learn something from it. So Sean talks a lot about his story, how he got to doing what he's doing. And I think you guys will get a lot out of this episode.
And again, I think it's one of those things where me coming into the industry and hanging out with Seth a lot more, you have an interpretation in your mind of what you may think a person in the music industry is like. And not one person that has come in and done an interview or we've talked to over Skype has had an ego at all. They've just been so open with giving their knowledge. And Sean is another one of the good ones. He was great and a great dude to hang out with as well.
Yeah, we love it. We love it when good guys win, and this guy is definitely winning right now. So check the episode out. Hey, podcast listeners. Something's coming February 1st, 2016. Have you ever thought about a career in songwriting or music production? We have created a couple courses with you guys in mind. We've been getting a lot of feedback on people wanting to know more of how to become a songwriter, how to become a professional music producer or engineer. These courses were designed to answer some of those questions. Go to fullcirclemusic.org/podcast and sign up there for more information. Well, thanks for being on the show with us today. I know you're in the middle of mixing probably 8 projects at the moment. I know you're always busy. You're always. How do you do it, man? I mean, the fact that you're even taking an hour to come drive down here is an honor for us. So how do you keep all this chaos?
We feel like we're taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
Oh, not at all. It's a blast being here. Man, I love it. That's how I do it. I'm obsessed with it. It's all I think about.
Yeah.
It's rare, I think, that you can actually say that you're doing what you would do if you didn't have to work. So, I just count every single opportunity as a really great blessing,
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, we're just diving into the show. Sean Moffitt here is a phenomenal mix engineer that I've known as a friend, and we've worked on a lot of songs together. I didn't do my homework, but I don't know how many we've done together. It's a lot.
It's been a good couple of years, man.
Yeah. So,
well said.
And honestly, it has really kind of dominated the charts in a genre. Probably more number ones than we can even count on 8 people's hands.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
But yeah, we kind of just wanted to get your your story. What was your journey into music? What was when was the first time that you felt music move you?
Man, very young. Actually, I started as a drummer, and I played drums all through elementary school, middle school, into college.
That's why the drums are always so loud in the mix. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that should be hopefully a recurring theme for me. But so I started as a drummer, and in my late teens, I had an opportunity to do some recording for the first time. And when I was playing, I just heard, I just went into the control room and heard these drums, and I was like, man, I don't think that's the way they should sound. And I wondered to myself if I could actually get them to sound better, and I just really got into that idea, and so that's kind of started my journey of wanting to do more of the recording side of thing, mixing thing, and just because I was just more fascinated with the technical side of things, and I also realized there's a lot better players out there than myself. So especially when I got here. So
Yeah, Nashville is
Yeah.
insane.
yes, yeah, it's just ridiculous. So
You said saying that you heard the sound and it didn't sound right to you. You felt like you could, if you had the opportunity, you would do it better.
yeah, it's just one of the hardest things for me, I think, is to if you're ever in a recording situation and you're in a great room. For me, I always walk into a room and hear this glorious kit playing, and I think one of the most difficult things is for that to translate on a record.
Sure.
And that's
Specifically drums more so than guitar. Or
I think
keys?
more. Yeah, I mean, other things as well. I mean, you could have a captivating vocal in a room, and then you go behind the monitors, and you're just like, man, I wish I could sound like I was standing next to the person.
Sure. Yeah.
But in particular, when I was younger, it was the drums. I just never, things that I played on, I just never felt that when I heard it back, it sounded like it should. And that was just what kind of got me into the whole idea of trying to do it better. you know?
Yeah. I don't want to tangent too far because I really do want to hear more of how you got to where you are now. But I'm already doing the tangent thing. 3 minutes in here. This
Tangent away.
That's cool.
with that. Do you ever get deep into the process and go, okay, I know they didn't sound right then. I've now worked on this particular sound so much that I've forgotten what good sounds like. Because, if you say the word "the" 100 times at the end of that, you're like, I don't even think that's a word. The kind of thing. So could you get so wrapped up in it that you lose what the original intent was?
Absolutely. That for me, that's something that I have to be careful with, like, all the time. Anything creative, if you don't, if you're too deep into it, you're just going to spiral.
Sure.
But and plus there's just a lot of great options to embellish stuff. But that's what really piqued my initial interest. In the whole mixing thing, for sure. So.
And with piquing your interest, what did you learn early on were skills that you needed to start adding to your repertoire in order to figure out what that sound was and actually make it a reality?
As silly as it sounds, like, less is always more, I feel, with drums. That's the biggest thing that I've learned. If it's recorded well, and if it's not recorded well, then sample away. But ideally, it's just not trying to do too much, because it's a naturally dynamic instrument, and when I try to change that, the character leaves. So
Wow.
yeah.
Gosh, that's wise.
So knowing when to insert your touch on something and when not to is probably the art of it. More so when not to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I'm working on anything, I always find that the deeper I get into changing a sound, or the more involved I get in just trying to implant my vision on the DNA of the track, it just gets worse. I think that, to me, a guitar sounds like a guitar. And if your EQ sounds like, looks like an Etch-a-Sketch smiley face, then, either there's something horribly wrong with the guitar, or, you're doing too much.
Right.
So I'm a minimalist at heart, for sure, with, how I, look at stuff. But, yeah, the more I get involved, it seems, the less fruit it, bears. So.
So with the number ones and the experience and the time in, and the fact that you're working on so many things, you're definitely someone that people seek out. And then you go and you say that you are a minimalist at heart when it comes to all this. What gave you the confidence to be able to step away and have that minimalist attitude, instead of what I've seen people do is have whatever the opposite of minimalism is, Maximilian is, I don't know what I'm saying, but to try to cover up any kind of insecurities or the fact that I don't want them to hear my inexperience here.
Right. I think, just some songs that worked. The more songs you get under, I mean, Seth I'm sure can attest to this. The more songs you get under your belt that's actually working, the more ease the people who are speaking into your work become, and they start to say, okay, well, this probably should sound this way.
Sure.
And that takes time, and I fight that every day still. Just understanding that, just understanding that that this is how I hear it, and if they don't like it, then we can change it for sure.
Sure.
But usually for me, first instincts are usually the best, and if I overthink it, then it just starts getting sideways. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you probably are feeling a little more confident now that you have 3 Grammy nominations this year. Does that give you any more confident? You won 2 Dove Awards, getting some hardware up in your studio now.
Well, here's the deal. With all that, it's just because of the people I'm working with. It really, I view mixing as an extension of what you do and what the artist is and who the artist is, and with more opportunity you get to work on material that's just better and better. And
Sure.
so I appreciate it, but it has so much more to do with the people that I get to work with. That's just plain and simple.
Yeah. So how do your journey up until now, from the time that you were a drummer to when you decided, hey, I'm going to focus behind the scenes and get behind the console and work on that side of things, how do you get in with those high level people?
That's actually really interesting. I have a very good lifelong friend named Brent Milligan here in town. One of my mentors, a great pal. And
great producer, great musician.
Oh yeah,
all of the above.
He's just a genius through and through. And I had an opportunity of meeting him, probably like 15 years ago, and he, I met him. I had an opportunity to work with a guy that was from Connecticut on a record that he was producing, and I just asked for a shot to mix a song that Brent was producing, and ended up working out. And for a couple years before I moved to town, Brent would send me records that were already done, and send me sessions and let me mix songs that were already done, already released. And he would send me the session, and he would send me the finished mix. And I spent 2 years on my own just trying to beat those mixes.
Wow.
What an opportunity, man. I never knew that.
What a
How many
classroom.
people out there, by show of hands, would kill for that kind of opportunity?
Yeah.
Every hand went up.
Yeah. Well, because here's the deal. Mixes are only going to sound as good as the source material. And what I found out real quick is that if I didn't have an opportunity to mix like really great quality stuff, my mixes weren't going to sound great. So I'm so thankful for Brent. We still work together a lot, and for doing that. And he's just a great pal, and just allowing me to do that was just a gift. And again, no one ever heard him. It was just me for me.
Sure.
That's amazing.
So when I finally felt like some of these, were winning, I decided to come to town and give it a shot.
So for you, it sounds like mentorship is a pretty important thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I still, I look at guys that are doing this way longer than me, in this town, and I'm just so thankful for the people who are able to, do this for a long period of time. And I'm constantly still looking up to those types of people, Brent's a big one of them. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having that opportunity. Well, I'm not a mixer, so that's one reason why maybe I can't imagine it. But just the opportunity to grow that confidence in private. Again, I feel like that we've talked to several people and about how that sometimes you just have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And risk being told it's not good enough. But the fact that you were able to work that muscle on stuff that you could compare to.
Right.
See, like what you were saying, I'm trying to beat this.
Right.
That's incredible.
And you had a guy kind of coaching you. You were probably able to send him stuff, and
Yeah. He would chime in every once in a while,
Yeah.
and then through that became more and more opportunities to actually work with him. And he was a massive catalyst,
Yeah.
to me coming here.
Yeah.
Big encouragement. So
That's awesome.
How long have you been in town?
just over 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gotcha.
You've accomplished a lot in a pretty short time.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I'm sure it hasn't felt like it's gone by. Some of the nights that you're, toiling away, you're like, this does not feel like it's going super fast, I'm sure. But
Well, man, it's just so fun. I have a blast doing this, and you can ask my wife. We were away for a week, and by day 3 and 4 of a trip, I'm just ready to get back at it. I just thoroughly enjoy it. It's just a great thing for me. It's therapeutic, and I love it. So it's not too bad. It's actually gone by pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
You guys, I'm going to again go off on a little tangent here because I've not gotten to the level of acclaim that you guys have, and we've been very fortunate to interview a lot of people thus far that, again, talking about hardware, they've got a lot of certificates, or they've got a lot of accolades to add to it. And he said, "So you're nominated for 3 Grammys?" Yeah, 3 Grammys. And I've heard you talk similar to, like, it was a neat thing to win. In my head, if and when I am nominated for a Grammy, like, I'm taking the kids to Disney World, I'm doing that. And you guys sound like it's just business as usual. Like, you got to get up and do it all over again. So the humbleness that you guys have for that is amazing. But I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening to this going, I would love the opportunity to be even nominated, and I'm going to go crazy when I do. So,
man, I always subscribe to a theory that you're only as good as your next thing you're involved with. I remind myself of that every day. Here's the deal. There's a zillion people that, do what I do that's incredibly talented. And so I just don't spend a lot of time thinking about past stuff. I'm just thinking about tomorrow or today, because in our circle of people, and I think Seth can attest to this, like in our community, the people that we work with, no one really cares. I mean, they'll be like, "Hey, congrats, man. That's great. Well, what's going on now? Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah.
And so, I mean, being involved in anything that's successful is always really great to, help you get motivated in the morning to get up. But I don't put much weight into it moving forward,
Sure.
It's more something that you can kind of send home to your parents and
Exactly.
convince them that you're actually doing that this isn't just a hobby.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, incredibly grateful, but as far as, the weight of it, as far, in what we do, it shouldn't be that much of a thing,
Sure.
in your approach and things,
That does make sense. I just keep imagining if I were in your shoes and were nominated, that it would be that scene of Risky Business with Tom Cruise, just like sliding across, dancing. Maybe I'll have to keep it to my private self, but I'm going to be doing some celebrating if and when that happens. But
yeah, I mean, I more go to the thing, well, man, I'm so psyched that this record, got nominated. Man, I hope I can do the next one. That's that. I mean, and that's an inner battle. I mean, I'm sure you can agree with that.
Well, it is the battle of, like, being in the moment and being thankful versus, you do have to be thinking about the next thing, because just because a song was Grammy nominated or a record was Grammy nominated doesn't mean you're driving around in a Bentley and getting paid millions of dollars. You've still got to wake up and feed your family the next day.
Yeah.
And there's always that fear. At least, I don't know if you can identify with, somebody once said, treat every dollar you make in the music business like it's your last.
wow.
And I think that could almost be said of any industry nowadays, because the world economies are so in turmoil and you just never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So how do you, in your own life, how do you walk that line between, staying present, staying thankful, walking into things with gratitude, and at the same time knowing that, hey, I've got to wake up and do this, another 300 days this year, or whatever.
Quite honestly, I think I fail at that pretty good. It's something I fight every day. I definitely fight the balance thing. I often feel if I'm not deep in a track or just working nonstop, that I'm slipping, and it's something that I am working on, and it's an essential for just being a healthy human.
Sure.
But again, it's like, especially in this town, you walk around and you meet a whole bunch of people, and I can't tell you how many people that you meet at a restaurant or someone coming in and fixing something in your house, and they say, yeah, man, I came here, I'm a guitar player, it didn't work out. And so I just look at all those people. I mean, this plethora of musical greatness that we're all surrounded with. And I'm just enamored by the fact that I even have a chance to do any of this. So,
Sure.
It's definitely a fight, for me to just, embrace friends and embrace family and be present with my wife and just not always be completely cued in, into the music scene. A big thing for me that has really helped is I just have a really great core of friends that have absolutely nothing to do with music, and they just don't really register. They don't even want to know what I did that day. And that's been a really healthy thing for me, just to really dive deep in some friendships that, not in this community,
That's good. They're in the movie business.
Yeah. Well, anything, yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, but it's just, it's a nice balance, someone who doesn't really be like, hey, what are you working on today?
Right.
So.
Exactly.
Wow.
You don't always feel like you're having to prove yourself or
Totally.
Yeah. It's not about what you're doing. It's more about who you are.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing if you go out and have a meal with a colleague or someone that's doing what you do. And I mean, try to not talk about work, and it's pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
So for me, just surrounding myself with people who, don't really have skin in the game has been really, really helpful. So
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's really good.
yeah.
Going back a little bit, when you were first practicing,
Yeah.
or even before you started getting those tracks sent to you, what were some of the skills or software? And again, I don't want to go too deep into this, but what were a few of the things that you needed to add to your equipment list to be able to even pursue mixing that drum track or whatever it may be?
Man, I mean, just in the beginning, it was just Pro Tools and figuring out my monitoring situation.
Yeah.
For us mix guys, I don't currently own a microphone. So for me, it's all about my monitoring situation and in Pro Tools. So just starting out, it was just figuring out, speaker placement and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays, I'm convinced that some of the biggest songs out there are mixed on laptops and, this, that, and the other. So, 8 years ago, it was a little different, but, just a simple Pro Tools rig.
Yeah.
Well, I'm convinced that we could get you on the show and say, hey, so what's your go-to compressor setting for vocals, or what's your favorite EQ for a kick drum? We were talking a little bit before the show. You'd probably say, I don't know, it's different today than it was yesterday, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a very unique, I don't know if it's unique, but I think it might be unique, is that I don't use a template. I never have. I do not have, every song is different, even if it's within a record. And 95% of the time, when I get a track, I start right when where the producer left off, because my philosophy is, especially working with guys like Seth. I mean, there's so many guys that coming from a songwriting perspective, they had to become great mixers because they're mixing demos. They want their songs cut. They got to sound great. Labels want to hear a mix to cut a song.
Sure.
And so working with guys like Seth and plenty of other guys in town, they've all become great mixers, better mixers than they actually realize. And as the volume and more work came in, I realized that, man, what's coming in is great. And so I got to figure out a way to embrace what's coming in and extend that. And if I have to peel back some layers to make some corrections, then fine. But I want to start where they left off.
Sure.
So because of that, there is no template. There is no go-to. It's where is it at and how can I make it better? I think that, and I think that guys like that, because here's the deal. Like, the idea that I could, sit at a song and look at it and say, okay, I got a day to work on this song. These guys have been working on it for 3 weeks. But today, I'm going to just strip it down to nothing and make it better. I just don't see that happening. So for me, I always start where it's left off. And again, if something's busted, then I fix it. But if not, I just make it better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking,
That's a good philosophy to live by.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about the volume. In your process, are you able to have 10 balls in the air at one time and that you're working on bits and pieces of each? Or do you need to have 10 balls and then you'll pick up one and go A to Z and complete that? And then you'll put that one down and pick up ball number 2. What does that look like for you, or how are you able to juggle all that?
Well, what I prefer and what is the reality are two different things. What I prefer is that you just live a record for a week, and unfortunately, the state of this business is you have to multitask and jump between styles, and so yeah, I mean and again, it's a song by song basis. I treat every song as a new song because it's a day of singles. It's even within a record. I just view a song as a song. So yeah, I mean there could be a bunch of stuff going on, but you just zero in on that one tune for that particular moment, and then go on to the next.
Wow.
What makes, from your perspective, what makes a great person? Because I'm sure you've worked with a lot of personalities over the last 5 years, and there are probably some that you're like, okay, I'm probably not going to do another mix for them again. And there are probably some like, I wish I could do all this stuff with them. What makes a good person to work with in the process, from a producer standpoint, from an artist standpoint, from a label standpoint?
Okay, well, this is actually really funny. I was having lunch with an A&R guy the other day, and he asked this really amazing question, and it blew me away that he would even say this. And he said, as an A&R person, like, what could I do better working with you guys, like the creative types? Like, how can what could I do better as an A&R guy? And I was just, first of all, floored that he would even ask that. But I thought about it, and it was actually a hard question. But what I came to the conclusion of is that when you feel like you're the man for the job, when you're working for a producer and the producer sends you a track, and you feel like they're wanting you to do this track, you're going to get the best results from me. When I have the confidence of the producer or the label saying, we're excited for you to mix this song. So when you go into a situation with a song and the producer's like, man, this has to be the best song ever. Like there's a lot weighing on it. Like, please just make it the best thing you've ever done. Instantly, as a creative guy, I clam up.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh man. But when someone reaches out to you and be like, man, I love what you do. Like, I can't wait to hear what you're doing. And like, we're so psyched. For me, I think it yields better results from me,
Sure.
And isn't that a little bit of an insult anyways? Like, hey man, those last 5 things you do, make this like way better.
I hear it all the time. I mean, I really do. And it is, in a way it's insulting. And I know it's not meant by
I
them.
hope I have not said that to you.
You haven't, but I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When there is weight to creating music, and when there's just like this, I guess it's fear. I mean, when there's just this urgency and this has to work, nothing's ever great. The stuff that, some of the stuff that I've been a part of that's been the most successful has been stuff that has not been overthought and has not been saturated in fear,
Yeah.
So,
wow, gosh. I was thinking as you were talking a few minutes ago about the different projects that you have the privilege of working on, and that there's a lot of good buzz these days keeping you busy. What do you do to keep your tank full as far as listening to other music, or like when you were originally inspired to pursue this? I'm sure that you were absorbing a lot more than you were putting out, but right now you're in a very busy season. How do you balance that?
As again, I'm obsessed with what I do. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I mean, again, you can ask my wife this, but when I go on vacation, before I leave, I buy like 10 records, and I just lay wherever I am, or and just listen to music and get excited about trying to implement things. And I listen to a ton of music. Especially if you're jumping between project and project, even within a day, or just finishing out something and starting something else. Like, I'm always checking myself, because you could be in one track and then go on to another one, and it's just, you need to just reinvent yourself. So I'm just always listening to music, listening to stuff that, is similar, or stuff that just, inspires me,
Yeah.
I every morning I just kind of sit in front of Spotify or iTunes and listen to music for a good 20 minutes, half hour, just get inspired. And
What are you listening to right now that's inspiring you?
oh,
I know that's like the question that nobody wants to answer because I can't answer it either.
no, what have I been listening to a ton? I mean, I'm listening to the new Coldplay, which is actually really interesting sonically to me. It's a lot different than I would expect. It's very cool though.
Yeah, me too.
Anything that Manny does, I love Manny Marroquin. So,
And who is that for the listeners out there who maybe not be familiar with him?
well, there's this guy out in LA, Manny Marroquin, and I'm just a big fan of what he does. I think he's the Jedi of all mix.
He's a mixer.
Yeah, he's just fantastic. He every single thing that he does to me, I can never tell that it's him. I think that for me as a mixer, I think the worst thing I could ever hear is that I love your sound. If someone said, "Man, I heard this mix and I knew it was you," it's like red alarm, red alert, because that means I'm not doing my job because I'm not serving the song. Manny, you just never can tell that he's on it until you look and say, "Oh yeah, Manny did that." I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
I really
he doesn't sound like he's copying pasting presets.
well again he can just jump across genre, all day long, and then I just think he serves the song so great. You could be on a Sia track and it's just this beautiful glorious pop sheen, and then you listen to a Mayer record and it's just this dark, crusty, tubby, beautiful melodic thing, and it's both him. That's like what I aspire to be for sure. So
That seems kind of like the ultimate compliment as well. That if you're continually asked to do a mix, but you're not copying yourself from the last thing, that takes a lot of trust from those people that make that decision to hire you. The fact that like we trust you so much that we know that you're going to yield results that aren't cookie cutter or what you did last time or safe even.
yeah, I mean, again, if I was making a record and I was getting it mixed and someone said, "Oh dude, I can't wait to bring my template in," I'd be like, I'm not going to do this.
Sure.
Because that's just not what music is. Why would one vocal work on another chain, of someone else's vocal,
Sure.
So no templates in this camp for me. So
Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, we talk a lot about Rick Rubin here as a producer,
Yeah.
and I really, really look up to him a lot in the sense that you can listen to Dixie Chicks and then you can listen to System of a Down. There's nothing.
it's a fantastic example.
You can't tell obviously that it was him, but you just know that he is a master of pulling something out of an artist that's
Yeah.
the best version of themselves, that's raw and that's emotional and that's compelling.
Yeah, he can go in and extend what the artist has and make it the best it can be.
Yeah.
What a gift,
Yeah. And to that end, I mean, you're only as to go back to your earlier point, you're only as good as what you're working on. You're only as good as the program material that's in there.
Absolutely.
You're only as good as the artist is in that moment.
Yeah.
And so it pays to try to align yourself with the right people.
Yeah, and as cliche as it is, I mean, when you bring it back down to basics, it's only as good as the song, right? You
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
So, but
Do you have a song plug-in that you can like make a song out of?
yeah, well, I mean, gosh, like this town, man. I mean, there's just songs for days coming out of this town. So, we're in a great place for that.
Not to name any names, but what is the weirdest or most hilarious mix comment you've ever gotten back? If you're even okay saying it on the show, because somebody will know it was them. But
Well, actually, it's really funny. I will not name names, but there was a producer that I've been wanting to work with for a long time, and just a fan of his work. And I finally got a shot to do some work for him. And I kind of stressed over it a little bit, going back to the whole thing of fighting that thing, and man, I delivered something that I just felt was a slam dunk, and he like a day later, my phone rings, and it's him, and he just said, "Hey, man, just feels weird." And I was like, "Oh no!" I mean, and you know the whole stomach in your mouth thing, and he's like, "Just kidding." And I mean, but if someone was if you were just to send them a mix, and they just be like, "Man, it's just weird," like that's horrifying to hear,
Yeah.
because, but man,
It was a long day for me. Sorry.
but you know, the comments range. You know, I always feel that even though it definitely helps me as a guy, you know, who's receiving comments, but anytime a producer just, you know, has a Google Earth approach to the song, it's usually the comments are really great.
Yeah.
You know, when they get lost in the details, you can get sideways.
Yeah.
You know, you're great at that, by the way.
Well,
Getting lost in the details, is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's the problem.
The Google Earth, you know, the Google Earth, you know. So.
Old Seth Google Earth Mosley.
Yeah.
I live by Google Maps. I would not be able to find my way anywhere.
No, it's awesome though, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today. And I think, you know, I'm inspired just listening to anytime that we hear somebody else's story that's been at it for a long period of time and is just waking up and continuing to do it every day and not buying into their own press. It's always an inspiring thing. And I think a lot of the listeners will benefit from that as well. So,
Amen. Yeah. And, to that end, though, how, and for some of those that may be the workaholic out there that are listening to this and think, yep, I'm the same exact way. How do you take care of yourself? You were talking earlier about balance. How do you find that balance for someone else out there that really needs to hear that, or their wife's already at their end?
Again, I'm working on that, so I feel a little hypocritical even speaking into this. But man, eating healthy, you know, that's a big thing. Us guys, we just sit all day, you know.
Sure.
And again, I'm working on it. But you know, taking care of your body, man, like, you know, it's which I'm really working on, and then also just understanding that they're things are probably not as big of a deal as you're making them out to be.
That's wise.
You know,
Yeah.
which I suck at, but I'm working on it. So
Sure. Well, I think we all could get better at it.
yeah, you're doing a pretty good job. So,
well, so are you, friend.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, man, this is a
great.
blast. I really appreciate it having me out. And it was fun.
Absolutely.
Sean Moffitt, you can check him out online on iTunes. You don't even have a website, do you?
I don't.
Okay.
You know, it's funny. I've sat down a few times and thought about doing one, but every single time I do, I just feel incredibly vain. I can't get past it.
Well, there's something to be said of that. Sean is not out marketing himself as a mix guy, yet he is getting so much work, and there's something to be said of just showing up and doing a great job over and over again. Speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, you're only as good as the next thing you do, man. That's my philosophy.
Wow.
So,
Well, even if you're not saying it out loud, the resume definitely speaks volumes.
appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And thanks again for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode and will join us again soon on the Full Circle Music Show, The Why of the Music.